Welcome back, everyone. This is Shadow Drake. Back to Vulcan we go. Same song and Diane. So we're actually approaching where I am currently. I haven't done a lot of playthroughs. I think I've done a little bit more. So I believe it's this part, the next part, and the part after that are, I think, the last bits I've played. This part is the new patch, so it should have the harm suit and stuff, but I don't think I even bothered looking into it until about the next part. After all, I'm still kind of focusing on trying to make my own water as my dwindling supplies of water, get perilously close. So in between parts, I realized that, well, I need some oxygen so that I can start making fuel mix. I don't have enough yet inside the room to be breathable. "26 moles is nowhere near enough. I need double that amount before it's close to breathable." So I started pondering about whether I should vent out my oxygen tank into the greenhouse. That way I have a pressurized space I can just go in. But I figured that I might as well handle that later. So first things first, I need to get the Sterling stuff situated and set up so that I can program it. Now, I think for the most part I am almost 100% there. I haven't quite decided if I am going to stop the commentary after I did the playthrough or something, because it's to the point that the stuff that I am doing now is stuff that I can more easily handle since I no longer have to hyperplan everything to be, you know, to the utmost degree. So one of the things I thought about is that I need to get a oxygen, a passive vent, so that I can. Well, I was thinking I should get a passive vent so that I can fill the greenhouse with oxygen that I pull. Then I think I decided that instead I should probably bring some oxygen from the tank so that I can set up a way to fill up my oxygen canisters. I really hope that they do something with the long pipes, because it's kind of annoying that you can't just snap them like the others, like the smaller pipes are able to. Yeah, I remember doing some double takes there. It's like, look, I need to fit a pipe analyzer here, and I don't have a good place to put them, so they're, trying to figure out a better way to get a pipe analyzer without running a lot of cable. Because I forgot that this section needs to empty out. Because I mean, once all the condensed water goes into the liquid pipe, I need to know when it's done so that I can empty it out. Because my main concern is that I will pressurize that too much, that pollutants will condense, which will then taint my water line. So, I'm gonna let the Sterlings cool the water down, and then ideally I'm not gonna cool it any lower than 150, and then I'm just gonna push it into that pipe network so that the only steam can condense. And yeah. Now, since I'm basically waiting for the plants to respire and get me some oxygen, I figured I might as well connect the Sterlings to the main cable network so that I can, you know, when I'm cooling down water, I might as well capture all that power. Because let's just be honest, if you know, 4 sterlings will make 8 kilowatts of power very quickly at the beginning, and then it'll, you know, quickly taper down to quite a bit. But I mean, if at the end when they're getting really cold, you know, that's maybe another 400 watts of power. So you know, it's like a huge burst of power at the beginning when water starts cooling, and then it slows down. But you know, that huge burst of power at the beginning, you know, it can average out to be a pretty decent sum of power. And like always, I think I always need more copper, gold, and iron and stuff. Back from my mining trip. So yeah, I have not done any. At this point, I haven't done anything with the arm suit. I don't know anything. Like I posted on Reddit results on the harm suit, which is quite interesting. And at this point, you know, it's very possible that I could have used that liquid canister that's in the pressurized water network. I probably could have just fitted that in the harm suit and just called it a day. You know, extra power consumption and just been done with it. But I really don't want to use that like as it is, because it's I don't know. I feel like it's kind of cheesy to kind of just ignore that. It was like the old portable ACs at the time. The old before the portable ACs were changed, before they had their internal atmosphere, they they kind of just stored like a ridiculous sum of thermal energy, and then you could have just disassembled it and reassembled it, and boom, it was ready to be used again. They were, I mean, it almost feels like that's what we're doing with the harm suit with a 1 mole liquid canister. It's kind of a nuisance to do it that way, but whatever. So yeah, so I am now preparing the greenhouse area. Like the whole reason I had the 2-floor system, and which was probably a great idea, is you know the upper floor is the plants, the lower floor is going to be the basically the microwave, any sort of canning, the fridge, the shower, you know, the useful stuff. That way I can go inside, I can eat, I can drink, I can cook potatoes, I can climb up to go grab more potatoes if need be, climb down. You know, that was the whole intent of having the greenhouse like that. But yeah. Hydration critical. And right now hydration critical warnings are kind of the more fearsome warnings to get. Just because of the whole fact that, hey, my water's dwindling. I also opted for a shower. So like the other thing, you know, I'm starting to think about quality of life stuff. You know, like the main limitations of this run is trying to not to take health damage, try not to let shower icon hit red, which you know kind of didn't do a great job. I let that happen. What, 3 times? Maybe 3 times. And as I'm thinking about it, it's like, well, yeah, I could use like a phase change evaporator to get rid of the polluted water and stuff. I kind of also thought that, well, since I have a ridiculous number of potatoes growing and they're not going to be very useful, I could just also turn some of them into charcoal. And when some of them become charcoal, then yeah, might as well use the water purifier, the actual kit, and see how good or bad that is. 29.8 moles of oxygen, still nowhere near close. Oh, yeah, yep, yeah. I'm watching that and watching the number get steadily lower and lower. getting kind of scary. But I'm really not that far off from being self-sustainable. I mean, really, the only things I need to be self-sustainable is to automate the cooling, the water cooling setup. And I'm at the point now that I don't really need to be outside in the daytime if I can avoid it. It becomes one of those things where, yeah, I could, but you know, realistically speaking, I don't think it'll help me. You know, to burn through my oxygen because I don't technically have the harm suit yet, or a valid coolant, mind you. And I just have a ton of potatoes. 2 cereal bars. They actually came at a good time. Like I no longer. Yeah.
Filter low.
So yeah, so far things seem to be going well. Yes, I know all of these loose items are kind of getting annoying. The fact that I can't store things in a very nice state, it's kind of annoying. Like I do want to expand the place. You know, it's just competing goals right now, really. I want to expand and make a place for printing where I can actually put stackers at the end of the printers so that I don't have to keep stacking things like that. I want to also have, you know, the printers be a pressurized space so that I can actually, you know, disrobe, keep hygiene up. Hmm. Looking back, I do see how much I smelt, how much I do stuff around things. It's like, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think I'm debating that once I hit around day 30, maybe I'll go back to the old way of things. Because I think I'm about that ways away. I think at about day 30, I'll be good enough to actually, like I said, I won't need as much of a, I won't need my full brain power. You know, all the systems will be set up and ready. They'll work. I have done all the heavy lifting, and from then on, it's just little tweaks and stuff. So in the previous part, I believe I set the fuel mixer to only look at the pipe analyzer, and when I looked at that, the volume pump on the liquid side, not liquids, the volume pump on the volatile side, I saw that it acted unpowered, which was confusing. And I think that's because the setting was 0, and yet I was also wondering why the volume pump was on. Like it shouldn't be, but it was. So I'll end up rewriting a little part of that script because originally I actually intended to have the tank to, you know, to read the total amount of oxygen inside a tank and use that number to help set the volatile side of things so that it will try to mix it almost perfectly. But I opted, you know, the first draft I didn't think about it too hard. I didn't think it was necessary to go that far. But yeah, with that pump looking like it's unpowered, I kind of make that decision to just add that logic anyways. The other thing that I was slightly concerned about is that it possibly, my system will be taking in so much heat that I would not be able to cool down the volatiles in a single night. But, I got the system going. It's working. I think I might hit that issue. I'm not sure. But even if I do, the only things I have to do to just increase the amount of heat dissipation from it. And so just add another large powered vent and, essentially that cooling tower solution that I talk about. That way I can dispel more heat at night to help keep it stable. And I figured that I'm going to need to do that anyways, because one of the things I was thinking of is I might need, before I get water, plenty amount of water, I might need to just set up the pollutants. A canister of liquid pollutants at like, negative 90 Celsius or something like that. Have like 10 liters of that stuff. And use that as my harm suit coolant canister. That way it can just stay cool. And when I do add that system eventually, I think the biggest issue I might run across is that now I am trying to keep some CO2 cool. I'm trying to cool water, and now I'm trying to cool pollutants to use in my harm suit. But one thing, I think the only good thing about that is that I don't know that the harm suit applies a lot of damage reduction to damage from different sources. And so I'm hoping that I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I'm hoping that it'll just be an overall improvement. And what was I going on with it? No. The big thing is that because I would be making liquid pollutants at like negative 90 Celsius, that I could use that big batch of liquid pollutants, because I was going to use it in a portable tank. I can use that batch of them and be kind of like the preliminary stages for condensing and making liquid volatiles. Because if I can make some liquid volatiles, then I can further cool that down and make an even colder stage to start making liquid oxygen. That way I can have a pumped liquid engine using volatiles and oxygen. That would be a good stretch goal to have. And the only reason I would need that is for a rocket to go out in space and grab more oxygen. So I'm just thinking that might be a good way to approach things. But I need a better cooling solution. So I never did any tests on the long pipes. I figured that each segment of a long pipe is 10 liters. And so I built that three length long pipe to make sure that it was 30 liters, and it was. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think it uses one less pipe than the length, or maybe two, I don't know. But it still adds the same amount of volume as if normal pipes took up that spot. So that's kind of neat. So yeah, this episode is going to be more about me building up the hardware for the Stirling cooling system, and the next video will be more about, the next part will be more about me programming it, doing all the heavy duty programming. Like I might touch on some of the programming, but that might be just to get the basic structure ready for testing in the next part. Because it's gotta be a lot more in depth. Actually, I wonder if this is where I start programming it. Yep, the water maker. So I'll talk about it a little bit here, and I'll probably can resume that thought. So the water maker. The goal is, we mix fuel. The H2 combustor draws fuel in and fills a steam tank. Those are the two separate systems right there. Fuel mixer is one, the steam maker of H2 combustor is another. Now comes the Stirling cooling. So what it's basically gonna be a thing that does multiple things. It's a setup that'll do multiple things in the sense that because Stirlings generate power, but they're also capable of cooling down the gas that is going into them very effectively. I've called them a powered convection radiator because that's kind of what they are. They're a convection radiator, and you can control them with power, except that they're the one things that generate power for you. You don't spend power to control them. You actually generate power by using them. So this is one of those scripts that I put in kind of like a logic step, or kind of like I try to organize it. A good chunk of my scripts are like a single function thing, a very simple function, check temperature, or check pressures. If I'm within the desired ranges, I do something. If I'm not, then don't do the thing. Those are basically most of the scripts you've seen so far. They're very simple. This state is active, then perform an action. This one is going to be different because I can't just very easily do that. I can't just check states and say, hey, if I have a state like this, then just pump in some hot steam into the Stirlings. Or it's like, hey, once the temperature inside the Stirlings get below 180 degrees, I need to extract all the water out. I can't just easily do that. And so because of that, I'm making it like I'm organizing the program to function with step logic. Excuse me. And so as you've seen that, alias step R11, 0 is idle, number 1 is pump in, step 1 is pump in, step 2 is Stirlings on, step 3 is pump out. And it will control the back pressure regulator, but that one is a very simple function. It's just a matter of, hey, is all the steam gone? Turn on. If the pump to push the hot steam into its pipe network comes on, turn off. And then check to see, hey, is there steam or water in here? If so, stay off. But once it's cleared of all the water, then, remove all the pressure out of that pipe network. So that's its own little thing. And so I don't get this fully operational now. I'm just getting the entire structure set up. So you see my main, my end, and then I have my pump in my idle step, my pump in step, my Stirlings on step, which is called cool down, and then the pump out step. And the reason it's set up like this is because I am going to change step, or R11, I am going to change it and check its state to see which one of those 4 functions need to be active. And I have to create the program in such a way that in specific steps, certain things happen, certain things turn on, certain things turn off, and I have different conditions to check for before it goes to another step. So that's the long spiel of that. I'd like to program like that. The main reason that I program this way is because part of my job is I work with PLC programs, and that's part of ladder logic. And so because of that, ladder logic is, I will say, similar to the way assembly goes in Stationeers and some other similar languages, where it executes from the top down. Except that, I don't need to put looping instructions. It's just naturally going to loop like that. And so from my understanding of that, what it does is the PLC generally has it has like at the beginning, it has a spot where it reads, depends how old the system is, mind you. It has a point where it reads the input data.
Power low. Air tank low.
And then after it does that, then it executes the ladder logic. So, it goes from the very, very beginning to the very end. It just executes that all in a sequence. And once it's done checking through the entire ladder logic, then it does the outputs. It turns outputs on or off based on the ladder logic. And it sends that signal. And this all happens extremely fast. And so in a sense, I mimic my Stationeers programming to function similar to the ladder logic from the PLC, the old school PLCs. So that so that I can understand what it's doing. And part of the whole ladder logic thing is, one of the things we got trained on is how to make it function, so that we didn't have competing steps or competing logic or anything like that, so that we didn't turn extra certain outputs on at the same time that we wanted another thing on. I don't know how best to explain it, but there's parts in automation that you want things to happen first before another thing. And that's kind of what I was emulating here. It's not a clean. In one way it's clean. It'll do what you want it to do. Ideally the way that you set it out to be. But as far as MIPS assembly language goes, it is quite inefficient in the amount of lines that you use for that. Like, if I could create a MIPS program that doesn't use the whole steps or machine states steps, it probably would. I would probably use less lines. But the only thing about turning it into like a state machine or something like that is that if you're in a certain step, you should only see specific things happen. If something else is happening when it's in a specific step, then you got something wrong in the logic, and you can go and troubleshoot it. All right, so it's been roughly an in-game day, and we saw that we've gone from roughly 26 moles of oxygen to 38 moles of oxygen, which is actually phenomenal if you think about it. I gained almost 10 moles of oxygen in that entire room over an in-game day. And so I wanted to check to see if that's breathable. Clearly not. I knew it wasn't going to be, but I wanted to know if I was a red lung icon or a yellow lung icon. So 39 moles. That's not bad. So I'm really, really close to being able to disrobe in the greenhouse. Which is amazing. I feel like once that's happened, that's a huge win. Huge win. So looking back at things, with the way I have things, the hard suit, the sensor lenses, all that stuff. I think the sensor lenses help for sure. The hard suit probably was something that I pushed for too hard. Probably could have gotten away with not having it. I mean, it made the hygiene thing harder, but I don't know that it actually hurt. Definitely slowed me down. But, and this is the last script I need. Well, the last script I need as far as getting stable. Because I mean, if I can just have everything, if I can have fuel mix being made, steam being created, steam being cooled down to water, then that's all I need for self-sustainability. All this without the trader as well. So I set up at the beginning to, you know, the steps, and then I create the whole regulator control for the back pressure regulator. And like I said, I just basically needed to make sure that there is no water, as steam or water. That actually matters. Water is liquid, steam is gaseous. That's the way Stationeers defined it. I mean, still technically water, but whatever. And so I was trying to think and come up with a decent way to do that. Ors and ends. I had to really logic it through. I didn't want to. This is the critical part. This pressure control. I didn't want to mess this up because if I messed it up, then I was going to vent out some precious steam out into the Vulcan atmosphere, and I didn't want to do that. So I had to go slow. I wanted to make sure I got a 1 when I had 0 water and a 1 when I had 0 steam, and I wanted them both to be on, ones. It was a little bit of stuff to logic through. But basically, no water, no steam, and I eventually decide on also make sure that the input pump, the pump that pushes the cool down steam in here, was off. And I also wanted to make sure I had pressure because I didn't want the BPR to be on the whole time. It's just a waste of power. Might as well only have it on when it needs to be. That looks like it made sense to me. I'm drinking water. I'm like taking little sips now. I'm like, oh, I'm running out of water. And I took a stock on my volatiles. I mean my oxygen. Look, even my oxygen is starting to get low. Like I'm no longer being able to hold as much. It's concerning.
Low pressure. Oxygen critical.
41.3 moles. It's getting much better. One of the tough things, like I wanted this to be the oxygen refill system. The hard part is that it's not going to fill very well because it's just not enough oxygen in there. So what I ended up deciding is that because I have like 80% of the oxygen I need to breathe, I figured that I might as well release my leftover oxygen into the room.
Oxygen low.
I also wanted to see when the warning went away. and it looked like it went away around 51 Celsius. Alrighty, so there's all the oxygen. That's the last little bits of oxygen. Now, I did this full well only because of the fact that, you know, I already had the whole system set up so that I can filter out oxygen when I push it into the filter. And so I noted that I went basically from like, what, 40 to 80. So I figured that the best thing for me to do is to just drain it back down to like roughly 60 or 55 moles of oxygen per room frame. Because then that'll get most of the oxygen from that canister into the oxygen tank. And that's what I need, because I might as well start making some fuel mix to make some water. The biggest concern now is that I might actually run out of water. It took forever for that to get to 3 megapascals. But essentially, I have a refill station inside. I can take off my suit and all of that stuff. So I'll no longer need to edit out most of the boring inside stuff. All I need to do is edit out the mining, if I do mining. So it'll basically be almost back to business as usual, since I no longer need to worry about, you know, airing out for like 5 minutes inside a 1x1 airlock. Now I actually have things I can do. So I figured, well, still waiting for nighttime. I guess I might as well just get some lights. Make it easier to see. Which, you know, I have not made a single portable light. Hmm. Thanks so much, Alexa. Anyways. Yeah, I should probably put all of my alloys and ingots away. I mean, look at that mess. Floorage. The floorage has always been strong in me. Trying to find good places for lighting is just tough. The whole interior decoration side of things is just something that I really struggle with in this game. It's actually quite a big struggle. Yay, lighting. I'm starting to wonder about my script thinking about it, because I expected those lights to have been on, but I guess they can't be on without encroaching on their darkness requirement. But yeah, what do you think? Good place to live? One literal ladder and almost nothing else. What do you think? It's cozy, breathable, barely. Getting there, I hope. I mean, the greenhouse is literally up top. So, well, as like I said, I did say one of the last scripts I need is the cooling down system, which I haven't quite gotten to that point yet. But I also forgot one more system. I need to be able to draw XX oxygen from the
Oxygen
greenhouse
low.
so that it can be filtered, so that it can be used for stuff. I completely forgot about that. So yeah, I'm down. I'm missing two scripts, and so probably once I'm done with both of those scripts, that's when I'll call. I mean, at that point,
Hunger
you can
cautiously.
kind of see it's the only way that I will die is either an accident outside, or if I really screw up with the generation of water. Like I said, it takes about 40-ish potato plants to be capable of making roughly 1.5 liters of water per stationeer day. So, yeah, and then that takes about another 20 to satisfy your breathing requirements. And so, really, it's just a matter of making fuel, turning it to steam, making water. This is around the time, yeah, I realized that that is not going to work well right there. Because, yeah, this is the little nuances that you get when your pipe network is so low compared out of your total capacity. So what it's doing, and this is when I fixed this script. I mentioned originally, I wasn't going to also find out the total moles in the tank. I didn't think I would need it, and the pipe analyzer would have been enough. And yeah, that was that was incorrect. So that test right there, I realized that I thought something was wrong with my script for the pressure regulator. That's not the case. I forgot that I was checking for the tag to turn the pump on. That's what I was checking. I wasn't checking the actual pump states, which could be a slight issue. And so I did a once check over, make sure that there wasn't anything weird that I would expect. Like I was deciding on whether I should make the H2 combustor not pull in any fuel unless it was the perfect mix, which I believe I remembered seeing that. And so now I'm going back to the fuel mixing and trying to decide where I should stick look the whole find the bowls in the tank. So yeah, I figured I can fix it up top and it should work for the rest of the script. So there we go. Alias for the tank. Then I'm going to be loading the total moles and the ratio oxygen, like before. So now that I'm taking both what's in the pipe network and the tank, I'll be able to get everything. I'll get the total amount of oxygen in both networks. And then I basically duplicated that because I'm going to need to know the total amount of volatiles so that I don't overfill the pipe network thinking it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I just need this much. It's like, no, 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 no. Got to be careful how I do that. So I duplicated that logic to look at what's in the tank as well. If it works, then it basically will do just like that. It'll turn it on for literally a tick. I'll have exactly enough of what I need, and done. So now with that, I decided, well, time to make some water. I was a little confused. Okay, so here's the funny part. It took me a while to catch this. I was confused as to why I wasn't seemingly moving as much in there. I was really confused. It wasn't until later that I'd actually look up and find out that I still left a fuel canister slotted in there. It was super confusing. Like, it was sluggish. More sluggish than normal. But yeah, that's a little bit left to go. Making my own water again. I have some fuel and still waiting for potatoes to respire. But you get what I mean now. Survival is almost guaranteed now. Almost. Just gotta get the last little bits done. With that, that means I need to go back and check on this. I know I don't get it fully set up here. I was checking the regulator stuff to make sure I didn't program it incorrectly. Because I actually thought I didn't program it correctly because, that where I'm at, 40, 43, and 44, I realized that I was checking the register P pump in on. When I saw that, I realized, oh, I wasn't reading the pump state. I was trying to work off of the register, which, if I manually toggle the pump, then it's not going to match the register. So I'm like, okay, so yeah, it should be fine. Should be. Not gonna lie, it just feels really good to go into a living space and completely remove the suit and helmet. It's like, hello, where have you been all this time? Pressurized space.
Oxygen low.
I had originally wanted to see
Oxygen low.
at what point the alarm truly came on, and that was about 52 again. If I had remembered that.
Oxygen low.
Now I find it really funny that the plants
Oxygen
that you can
low.
be in the plants, and because of the way the game works, they actually breathe. And you're in good breathing range on top of the plants. I just thought that was cool and neat.
Oxygen low. Oxygen low. Hydration critical.
Still drinking water. The panic is real. Or getting more real. My first Vulcan grown potato. I think I decided to save the last of the cereal bars in case I wanted to get myself to 2-star food. I mean 3-star food. 24 days. So, okay, so I started thinking about this. So, if you were to do a brutal legend on Vulcan, you can kind of see that without the traitor on Vulcan, it is actually quite possible. I actually wonder if you don't even need to do anything else other than plant plants and just use whatever your water is. Maybe make a little bit if possible. So here's at the point that I was kind of starting to think. It's like I wonder if I should build the sleeper and just, get extra oxygen. It doesn't take much to get the sleeper. It really does not. I really, this is around the point where it is a valid path, rather than sit around, rather than consuming precious resources, aka your water. I could instead use that excess, go to sleep and let that oxygen that was originally meant for water actually build up the reservoir for oxygen. Because, I mean, mathematically, I'm only a surplus of 20 potatoes. So whatever 20 potatoes make in an hour, that's, that's how much an hour my oxygen tank's going to increase. Because I'm spending 20 plants worth for breathing, about 40 plants worth for water. That puts me at 60, and I have roughly 80 potatoes. So then that means 20 plants worth for extra. I believe it's 8.6. So, every hour or 3 in-game days, I get an extra 160 moles of oxygen roughly, which is kind of a lot, but it really isn't very much. So, if I instead go to sleep, well, I'm still spending the 20 plants worth of oxygen to, be alive in the sleeper. But then suddenly I gain 40 potatoes worth of oxygen. Which is a big thing. If I was doing 160 with 20, then suddenly I'm doing a whole lot more. An extra 320, yeah. That's 480 moles of oxygen per hour. So if I just go into a sleeper and go to sleep, I'm making roughly half a kilomoles worth of oxygen. It just goes to show you how slow it is to make oxygen on a hot world if you're only potatoes. If I do a no trader run on Venus, I really, really do not want to do it with just oxygen plants. I mean, I think the greenhouse setup, I could probably force it to be only a single floor. But ugh, Venus is just so rough. So I decided to work on making an airlock here, just working on the internals, the living space, making it more homey. It's just so much difference. I keep forgetting that stupid corner. Those corners are gonna be so frustrating. How they just block placement of a glass door. Yeah, we are wrapping up for this video. Like, for the most part, I have been waiting to get some extra oxygen.
Oxygen low.
You'd be surprised to know that the whole reason I did this was to see if I could somehow keep most of the oxygen inside the greenhouse like that without an airlock. I don't think I was successful. That I'm just like, not even worth it. More water. I think I am officially below 6 liters in there. Or once I filled that water bottle up, I'll definitely be below 6 liters. I'll definitely give mining a try in the harm suits. I'm really curious to see how well it'll be. Like, I understand Vulcan is extremely mountainous and lots of holes everywhere. But yeah. The biggest danger of the harm suit is the fact that you cannot use a jetpack. Now, if, you see that I rarely use my jetpack anyways. I do use it some, but I rarely use it. So I really want to see how well doing stuff in the harm suit will work. Like I've done a lot of tests in the harm suit so far, and I'll go over them later. But to summarize it, I will summarize some key important features of it. The harm suit is a 400 liter capacity suit compared to the 13 liters that the other suits are. This is problematic in the sense that if you have a suit breach in a highly pressurized environment, a lot of that air gets into your suit. You basically turn into an oven. That suit becomes an oven in Venus. You get a suit breach, you're gonna become a barbecued Cerulean, or oven roasted human, or well, actually the robot can't die, but you get the points. You, the irony that it's supposed to be resistant to suit breaches is going to be a major feature for making sure you don't just outright die with the harm suit. I don't know what it'll do in Vulcan. I presume that because your suit has a higher pressure, most of the oxygen will exit the suit, keeping hopefully less of the volatiles from coming in. But again, if it's hot outside and you get hot volatiles that manage to get into the harm suit and then, combust, then it's like you really would be cooking yourself over a fire at that point. I haven't done crazy tests like that to see what will happen and just to see how well it'll kill you. Oh yeah, that's when I realized that I left the fuel canister in there. So I actually had a dangerous. You remember how I was talking about under engineered systems? Yeah, that right there was a potential danger It could have ignited. It could have possibly exploded that canister and taken out a good chunk of infrastructure over there, and that would have been really, really bad. So I'm kind of glad I caught that early, ish. But yeah, anyways, back to the harm suit. So yeah, that massive capacity is probably going to be both a blessing and a curse. A blessing in the sense that it makes the suit harder to gain temperature increases from the world. You know, because if there's more air, then that means it takes longer for it to heat up to unsustainable levels if your coolant is bad. Bad in the sense that you have such a huge capacity that if you have a suit breach, it's really, really bad. But yeah, I definitely got to test to see what happens if I damage the suit. The other biggest thing that I wanted to check is, you remember the very first part in this Vulcan video? I breached my suit by falling. I need to do some fall tests to see if I can breach the harm suit just from jumping off a mountain and falling. If it is protected against that, then I think it'll for sure be worth it. If it is not, oh boy, it'll be debatable. Debatable. I think it's still good though. The fact that it doesn't burn oxygen to cool yourself, I think is a major plus for it, for sure. But yeah, wrapping up here. I'm trying to make a liter of water because I need to have approximately a liter of water in the tank for getting the Stirling cooling set up. So yeah. So I'm gonna wrap it up here, and the next part we're gonna go code happy to get the Stirling's cooling set up. Once that's done, I'll be capable of surviving. For sure. I will consider the run a victory at that point. So yeah. This is Shadow Drake. Thank you for watching and joining me in this adventure so far. Uh, Thank you for your time, for sure. When we get back, we'll finish some stuff up. So, have a good day, and bye-bye.